The Pacific Ocean, in its boundlessness, seems eternal and unchanging, yet it is precisely in its cold depths that secrets capable of altering the course of world history are hidden. On February 24, 1968, Soviet diesel-electric submarine number 129 departed from the port of Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky for a combat patrol. Aboard were 3 ballistic missiles with nuclear warheads, capable of wiping entire megacities off the face of the Earth. First-rank Captain Vladimir Kobzar led his crew on a routine 90-day mission. However, 2 weeks into the mission, communication with the vessel abruptly ceased. The massive steel structure, weighing 2,800 tons, simply vanished from radars and the airwaves. The Soviet leadership plunged into a state of quiet panic, as the loss of a strategic missile carrier meant not only the loss of a combat unit, but also the risk of secret ciphers and technologies falling into the hands of a geopolitical adversary. For 2 months, dozens of naval vessels of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics scoured the northern Pacific Ocean, but the search yielded no results. The depth of 5,000 meters reliably guarded its prey. Ultimately, the Soviet side officially declared the submarine missing, hoping that no one would ever be able to reach its wreckage. While Moscow analyzed the causes of the catastrophe, Washington closely observed the hustle of Soviet search parties. The United States of America at that time possessed an advanced sonar surveillance system known as SOSUS. This network of underwater microphones registered a strange acoustic burst on March 8, 1968. A thorough analysis of the acoustic data allowed American specialists to pinpoint the epicenter of the explosion with an accuracy of several miles. While the Soviet Union searched for its submarine in one area, the United States Intelligence Agency already knew precisely where it rested. To confirm the find, the secret atomic submarine Halibut, equipped with the latest technology of the time, was dispatched to the specified location. Using deep-sea cameras towed on cables, the Americans managed to take tens of thousands of photographs of the mangled hull of the Soviet vessel. The images clearly showed missile silos and the conning tower, which could have contained secret communication codes. The discovery of the object at a depth of 5 kilometers marked the beginning of one of the most ambitious and costly operations in the history of intelligence. The Central Intelligence Agency realized that traditional methods of salvaging ships would not work here. No crane in the world could withstand the load when operating at such a colossal distance from the surface. Moreover, the operation had to be conducted under the strictest secrecy, right under the noses of Soviet reconnaissance ships that constantly patrolled in neutral waters. The idea seemed insane: to build a giant vessel equipped with a mechanical claw that would descend to the bottom, grasp the submarine, and lift it to the surface. Within the CIA, the project was codenamed Azorian. The problem was how to explain to the world community and Soviet spies the construction of a huge ship with a strange hole in its bottom. A legend was needed, one so massive and convincing that no one would suspect Washington's true intentions. It was then that one of the most enigmatic figures of the 20th century, billionaire Howard Hughes, entered the scene. Hughes, known for his eccentric behavior and passion for innovation, was ideally suited for the role of cover. The public was told that the billionaire had decided to engage in extracting manganese nodules from the ocean floor. These small formations, rich in rare metals, did indeed exist at great depths, and their industrial extraction looked like a logical next step for a progressive capitalist. To implement this task, a company called Global Marine was created, and the construction of the vessel was entrusted to a shipyard in Pennsylvania. The ship, named Glomar Explorer, was striking in its size. Its length was 189 meters and its displacement exceeded 50,000 tons. In the center of the hull was a huge hollow section, which engineers called the moon pool. At the bottom of the vessel were doors that could open, allowing a mechanical grab, nicknamed Clementine, to descend into the abyss. This entire structure cost American taxpayers an incredible $350 million at the time. The technical implementation of Project Azorian required solving tasks that were previously considered impossible. To keep the vessel precisely over the immersion point in the open ocean, a dynamic positioning system was developed. 5 powerful engines, controlled by electronic computers, compensated for the effects of currents and wind. The mechanical grab, Clementine, was a complex system of 8 steel jaws that had to carefully close around the fragile, pressure-damaged hull of the Soviet submarine. The grab was lowered not by cables, which would inevitably stretch under their own weight, but by a rigid column of steel pipes. Each pipe was 9 meters long, and workers had to sequentially connect them, creating a 5-kilometer vertical main. This process resembled drilling an oil well, but with the precision of jewelry work in conditions of constant pitching. The inner world of the operation's participants was filled with extreme tension. Engineers, sailors, and intelligence agents lived a double life. Even the families of many employees did not know what their loved ones were actually doing. Inside the Glomar Explorer, an atmosphere of iron discipline and paranoia reigned. Every step was controlled, and any deviations from the plan could lead to the failure of the entire mission. The personal ambitions of the project leaders intertwined with the fear of a possible international scandal. If Soviet sailors discovered that the Americans were trying to steal their property, it could lead to a direct military confrontation. The psychological pressure was amplified by the realization that they were working at a site that had become a mass grave for 98 Soviet sailors. Respect for the enemy and professional excitement created a strange moral cocktail in the souls of those on board. On an ideological level, Operation Azorian became the embodiment of the clash of 2 systems. On one side, Soviet secrecy and willingness to sacrifice resources to preserve secrets. On the other, American belief that any technical obstacles could be overcome with money and engineering genius. It was a competition not only of armaments but also of imagination. The idea of stealing an entire submarine from a depth of 5 kilometers seemed like something out of science fiction. But in the conditions of the Cold War, the line between possible and impossible blurred. The paradox was that in order to obtain information about the enemy's ciphers, the United States built the most expensive system in the world, which itself became a technological secret of exceptional importance. The clash of interests occurred not only in the offices of politicians, but also in the very fabric of reality, where material costs were measured not only in dollars, but also in the risk of global conflict. On July 4, 1974, Independence Day of the United States, the Glomar Explorer arrived at its destination. The active phase of the recovery began. Week after week, the iron column descended deeper into the dark waters. When the Clementine claw reached the bottom and touched the twisted metal of the K-129, sensors aboard the vessel registered contact. The hearts of hundreds of people stood still. The claw's jaws slowly closed, securely holding a fragment of the submarine. The slow process of ascent began. Every few minutes, a new pipe was disconnected from the column and the cargo rose higher. However, at a depth of about 2,700 meters, the unforeseen occurred. The claw's structure, made of special high-strength steel, could not withstand the colossal tension. A dull sound was heard, and 3 of Clementine's 8 jaws snapped. Most of the Soviet submarine, including the missile silos and the compartment with cryptographic equipment, slipped out of the grip and plunged back into the abyss, finally shattering upon impact with the seabed. Only the bow section of the submarine, about 12 meters long, remained in American hands. This was a devastating blow to the project's ambitions. In this section, there were neither codes nor the main secrets that the Central Intelligence Agency had so eagerly anticipated. However, the recovery procedure had to be completed. When the fragment of the boat finally entered the moon pool, the Glomar Explorer's doors closed, and the vessel began its journey to the shores of the Hawaiian Islands. Inside the recovered section, the bodies of 6 Soviet sailors were found. Despite the harshness of the confrontation between the 2 superpowers, the American command decided to hold a farewell ceremony with full military honors. The bodies of the deceased were wrapped in Soviet flags, and to the sounds of the national anthem of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, performed in Russian, were committed to the ocean. This act of deep respect for a fallen enemy became one of the most humane moments in this entire grim history. The denouement of this grand drama came unexpectedly. Although the CIA planned a second expedition to retrieve the remaining parts from the seabed, information about the operation leaked to the press. In early 1975, journalist Seymour Hersh and the Los Angeles Times published a sensational investigation. The legend of manganese nodules was shattered. The whole world learned that, under the guise of peaceful research, the Americans had attempted a daring abduction of Soviet property. The Kremlin's reaction was predictably harsh, although the Soviet leadership was bewildered by the realization that their secrets had come so close to exposure. The continuation of the operation became impossible due to diplomatic pressure and the threat of direct conflict. Project Azorian was officially closed, leaving behind a giant vessel and empty safes in the intelligence agency. The significance of Operation Azorian for the modern world is hard to overestimate. Although the main goal was not fully achieved, this project revolutionized deep-sea technologies. Methods of dynamic positioning, metal welding techniques for working under extreme pressure, and robotic gripping systems became the foundation for the modern offshore oil and gas industry. But perhaps the most famous legacy of this story was the legal formulation that became known as the Glomar response. When journalists began to barrage the government with questions about the operation, CIA lawyers coined the phrase, "We can neither confirm nor deny this information." This standard response is still used by special services worldwide to protect state interests. The operation showed that in the world of high politics, information is the most expensive currency, for which states are willing to take insane risks. The lessons of this technical thriller remind us of the fragility of human life in the face of state interests. The tragedy of the K-129 crew and the colossal efforts of those who tried to raise their ship underscore the paradox of human nature. We are capable of spending billions to peer into others' secrets, yet at the same time show genuine nobility, paying last respects to those who yesterday were our potential adversaries. Operation Azorian remains a symbol of an era when the boundaries of the possible were defined only by the boldness of engineering thought and the depth of the state budget. Today, looking at the calm waters of the Pacific Ocean, it is difficult to imagine what passions raged here at a depth of 5 kilometers, and what incredible machines worked in the complete darkness of the abyss. Concluding this narrative, we return to the same sense of silence with which it all began. The ocean still holds the remains of the Soviet submarine, and the story of its recovery has become a legend, combining elements of a spy novel and scientific achievement. The fact that humanity was able to extend its iron hand to the bottom of the ocean forever changed our perception of the planet. We realized that even at the most incredible depth, there is no place hidden from human curiosity. And although the ciphers of that era are long outdated, and the confrontation of systems itself has become part of history textbooks, the spirit of inquiry and the willingness to challenge the impossible continue to drive progress. Ultimately, Operation Azorian was not only an attempt to obtain secrets, but also a great test of human potential, proving that even the deepest secrets eventually come to the surface. Every time we face the unknown, we must remember those engineers and sailors who worked aboard the Glomar Explorer. Their labor, hidden under a veil of secrecy for decades, now serves as a reminder that true science and intelligence often go hand in hand, creating tools that later serve all humanity. The story of the K-129 is not just a tale of a sunken boat. It is a monument to human perseverance and the complexity of our world, where even in the very center of the cold ocean, there can be a place for respect, memory, and great discoveries. We still continue to explore the depths, both physical and historical, finding in them answers to questions we asked ourselves many years ago. And this connection of times remains indissoluble, like a steel column stretching into the fathomless blue of the Pacific Ocean. 1974 will forever remain in the annals of history as the time when humanity first truly realized the scale of its technical capabilities. Despite partial success, Operation Azorian demonstrated that there are no insurmountable obstacles to achieving strategic superiority. It was a time of heroes, adventurers, and geniuses whose contribution to technological development we feel to this day. And even if most of the K-129's secrets remained at the bottom, the very fact of this attempt tells us more than any information obtained. We are beings who do not know how to give up in the face of infinity, and therein lies our main strength and our main enigma. Ultimately, all the events of that time, from the mysterious explosion in March to the solemn burial in July, form a single picture of human striving for knowledge and dominance. We learn from our mistakes, we build giant ships and dive into the abyss to understand ourselves. And as long as the waves continue to beat against the sides of research vessels, we know that down there, under immense pressure and in eternal cold, lies a part of our common history, once disturbed by the iron grip of Clementine. This story is complete, but its echoes will be heard for a long time, reminding us of what we are willing to do for access to the truth hidden beneath 5 kilometers of water. 139 meters of steel hull, 5,000 meters deep, and $350 million. These figures are forever etched in the history of the Cold War. But behind every figure stand people, their fears, their labor, and their belief that they are doing something truly important. Today, when we can freely discuss the details of Operation Azorian, we see in it not only an act of espionage, but also the greatest engineering achievement of its time. The world has become more transparent, but the mysteries of the ocean still beckon those who are willing to risk everything for a single moment of truth. And as long as such stories exist, our imagination will strive towards where the light fades and true mystery begins. In this silence, where the remains of great machines and brave people rest, we find lessons of humility and pride. Humility before the power of nature, so difficult to subdue, and pride in the intellect capable of creating the Glomar Explorer. May this story serve as a reminder that even in the darkest times, humanity strives for the light of knowledge, no matter how complex and dangerous the paths to it may be. We conclude our journey into the depths of the past, but new horizons await us, which will require no less courage and skill. And in every new step, we'll live a piece of the experience gained in the waters of the Pacific Ocean in those distant and tense years.